Right. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to come before you all today. My name is Charles, Chuck Chill Out, whatever you want to call me. And this is a continuation of Let's Talk About Race podcast with a hip hop foundation. So, in other words, just delving into all aspects regarding race, but using hip hop in terms of the foundational scope in reference to just diving into various topics that affect people of color, but using hip hop as the literally the microphone for voicing various opinions on various subject matters. But with that said, some quick intros. I have brother Lew, Louis G, Little Gettleman. You want to say a couple words, Lew?
I just want to say that it's always a pleasure to be with you two beautiful men.
Mm.
Uh, as we get to know each other better and better, I feel like it's a trio. I call us the three amigos, but that probably is politically incorrect. So I'm
Mm.
just going to call us the three brothers. But yeah, I'm interested in this discussion too, because I thought what you said, Charles, about hip hop as a microphone, I
Mm.
like that. I don't know that that was original thought by you
It
or
was original,
not.
yeah.
It was original?
It was. It was.
Also, give it up for Charles, because that's a really good image, right? It is.
Right.
It's the
It is.
mic, and
Right.
it's why it became so powerful. And ironically, it became a mic for all kinds of folk because it spoke to people in a way that not we haven't seen anything like it in terms of music and culture that crossed over everywhere, just like we talked about. So I
Mike
like
has been
that.
taken away from the folks that really need it, but now we got to give it back
I
to them.
that we're in agreement, but we
Mm.
can always grab the mic back.
Sure. And of course, we have Sundiata the Tail Weaver here with us. How you doing, brother?
Peace. What's good? What's good?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Always a
sir.
pleasure. Always a pleasure to come on the show and build. And
Mm.
of course, hip hop is, one of the messianic forces of the planet. So it's definitely. I forgot to
Right.
turn my phone off.
Nah, you good. You good. You good. You good. And this is important conversation because I know that we're having a conversation about hip hop, but of course, as three veteran educators, we're able to just like weave in literally how education and how teaching the youth plays into just the impact that hip hop has overall. So we're diving into very important and thought-provoking conversations, man, that hopefully can just, reach the masses and really hopes, to make a change, much needed change in our society. But with that said, at the tail end of our last conversation, if audience, you guys remember, we were talking about regions in terms of hip hop and like which area of the country, and then of course within the five boroughs of New York City has produced the best artists, the best MCs. And that's another conversation in terms of the distinction between MCs and artists and just making that distinction. But with that said, let's hear from you guys. So I guess we could think macro for a second. In terms of artists from various parts of the country, which like area stands out to you in terms of having the most impactful artists overall?
Well, for me, I'd have to say I try to be, universal in my opinions because I realize that hip hop is a universal thing and it comes from a place that's shared by people from all over, not just one area. Now, with all of that on the table, I say, I've been heavily influenced by the Northeast. Of course, New York City is being, you could say the home or progenitor of what we know is being hip hop today.
Mm.
And, you know, there were other cities that came or other areas that were, came around and did their thing. But I was most influenced by the area that I'm from and the area that it started in. So the Northeast, I do have artists that I like from all over, West Coast, down South, you know, um, Midwest. It's funny how they put us in those pockets, so that we can see. Oh well, these are these MCs over here. These are these MCs down here, and these over here. So I'm careful about pocketing, but since we're doing regionalism in the form of fun, what I mean. I got to go with the Northeast. Big up to my people on the West Coast.
Right, right.
How about you, Charles? Where do you think?
So, I guess I could just talk from personal experience. I know as I was, getting into hip hop, for me, I'm going to leave New York City separate. We're going to have a separate conversation about New York City delving into that. I think it sort of, it's just to stand alone just in terms of having that conversation. But with that said, for me, I think the West Coast just brought a different energy to the game. And Sundiata, you can talk about this, Lew, as well. Just in terms of like where hip hop was in that 90s era. We're talking about the Rodney King. We're talking about police brutality. We're talking about all the things that sort of like germinated and sort of like sprung up from just the anger that I guess, not even just the West Coast, but just that young people felt. And and to that point in terms of like hip hop being, being used as a microphone, I think that era in the West Coast in terms of people calling gangster rap. I mean, I don't know. I just call this a reflection of what was going on, what they were talking about. Ice-T and NWA. I think it was just such a powerful time, just in terms of letting folks know, as I say, shit is real in the field, right? I mean, there were a lot of like crazy situations that folks were going through, particularly with law enforcement and just within their communities. And I thought the West Coast really brought that message home in a lot of ways. I think East Coast, we can sort of label it as just having that conscious and, heart space voice. But I just think in terms of the pivot, in terms of just projecting just the anger that a lot of, not even young people, just people felt in terms of their situation and what they were going through from the government as well as from law enforcement. I think the West Coast sort of honed in and sort of channeled that energy and sort of put it out to the masses. I mean, just NWA, just straight out of Compton, a crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube. I mean, just like the intro to that song, just like, this is it. This is what we're talking about. It's just, it was such to me, a powerful just message that was put out there by specifically the West Coast. And it was so impactful, just in terms of taking hip hop where it needed to go. And I think it sort of pivoted in the wrong direction, but I do think it was positive in the sense that folks needed to hear of all the injustices that were, put upon us, specifically folks within the inner cities, by the hands of our government and by law enforcement, that's specifically having such a negative impact on various peoples. And I think the West Coast sort of just channeled that energy within that time frame perfectly. Then it sort of went another direction, but I just think that it was just channeled perfectly within that era. Early 90s.
Heavy.
I think I agree. And I think, like, if you go back to Grandmaster Flash and him exposing the horrors of living under capitalism, living as Black people in poverty, he caught that message, right? And it spoke to people. But NWA, when they did Fuck the Police, that spoke to a different thing. That was the Malcolm X moment, where we moved from Martin Luther King to the Black Panther Party, Malcolm, folks saying no, no, and no. Not that I love Martin Luther King, and I think that was an important thing, but I think that moment in time, it ignited people, because they were it was that anger, like, fuck the police, like,
right,
always coming down on us. And somebody actually is singing about it, and we know like what happened. The cops went crazy about it because they could. And in Detroit, you remember in Detroit when they were
the audacity to say it, I think was just so powerful, right?
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Like, it was the quote, but that's the thing. It was the audacity to say it. Like, what do you mean it's audacious to say fuck the police? Do you know what it's like in our neighborhoods? Like, yeah, but it took audaciousness. It took bravado. Now, we know things went sideways with gangster stuff and all other things, but I think that was a pivotal moment. It didn't last. I wish it had lasted more politically, though. People like Public Enemy and so forth did speak to those same things.
Right.
It was to just capture the righteous rage of people, and it was like I'm getting probably evangelical here, so bear with me. But it was a liberating moment. It was the voices. It was a voice of liberation. Did it come out in the most elegant way? Did it come out, theological or as politically astute as Malcolm or Martin. No, it didn't. But it was the voice that just, and it captured people like me too. I didn't have the same experience. I had enough experience with the police, but it captured me, and I was like, yeah, fuck the police.
Right, right. All right, but with that said, Sundiata briefly touched on it. New York City, birthplace of hip hop. Let me share my screen. Let me see, let's do it. So if you all can see.
Nice.
If you guys can see.
That's why he didn't want to talk about New York yet. I didn't know he was going to do this, but
wow, he's
this
thorough.
is it. This is it.
So I think, yeah, New York City, I think New York just should have a separate conversation, just in terms of the impact, excuse me, that the genre has had. Wait, I don't know if that's too big. There we go. Can you guys see that well?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Right. So, of course.
And look at Queens versus Brooklyn. Just saying.
So we got over here, from this little area right here, Jamaica, Queens. We got Run DMC, LL. We got Q-Tip, Phife Dawg, Tribe Called Quest. We got 50. We got South Jamaica, Queens right here. Is in the building. Sundiata, you bigged up Pharaoh March, which is, oh my God, you talk about lyricists. Woo! Next level. And then, of course, I mean, I even talk about, who I have at the top of the list. We got
poetry in there.
You got we got Nazia Jones. Yep. We got Mobb Deep. We got Juice Crew. Oh man, we got Kid and Play.
Nice.
Realize Coogee Rap.
Kid and Play's from Queens.
Yes, sir. Yep.
I thought they was from the island for some reason.
Yep. Large Professor. Then all the way down here for Iraq, MC Search.
Okay.
Yep. And then of course we got Brooklyn. Brooklyn's of course is in the building. We got Jay-Z, Jazzo. We got Big, the Jizza, as you mentioned before, Sundiata being from BK. Big Daddy Kane, Mos Def. I mean, God, Brooklyn representing, man.
What did I say?
Tyler Kweli.
I said Brooklyn was the deepest.
Man, I'm telling you. I think Busta was from Long Island. I gotta double check this, man. I don't know. I think he's from Long Island.
I think what I heard was Busta's originally from Brooklyn, and then he moved to
and then he moved out. But his roots were Brooklyn.
Right.
I just would like to point out, we didn't say him, or maybe I missed him, but I used to love Q-Tip.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Of course. Then, of course, we got over here.
I just want to can you screen share and roll back to Brooklyn just so we can see how deep that squad runs?
Okay.
But there's some people missing on it too. So
yeah, who we missing? So who we missing?
Let's see. In Brooklyn, you're missing. I just thought of somebody just now. Divine Styler.
Okay.
Divine Styler's from Brooklyn. Yeah. Tupac is from Brooklyn.
I thought I saw Tupac here. Maybe no, they forgot Tupac. Yep. Yeah, they forgot Tupac. Yeah.
Can't forget Tupac.
No, we can't. No, you can't.
Mo Green, of course, from Brooklyn.
Sundiata, much love that you keep blowing up Brooklyn, because I forgot that Tupac was from Brooklyn too. That's crazy.
Okay, we gotta talk though in terms of is it a matter of where you're from, or is it a matter of what sort of where you rep, as you get older? But that's another conversation for another.
I would say it's where you're raised for the most part, the area, what is the city that you was raised in.
Right. And then of course we got the Boogie Down, Fat Joe. We got Grandmaster, guessing the Furious Five, of course. We got Scott LaRock, KRS-One, of course, Bambaataa. Big Pun, Curtis Blow. Oh man, whew. And it's a Cool Herc. Come on, what are we talking about here? It's rough.
That's what you call quality.
Right.
Quantity is much per quality.
No doubt. And of course we got Uptown. We got Uptown, we got Harlem, we got Immortal Technique, we got Kumo D, Killer Cam, we got Cameron. Interesting, they got Tupac. They got Tupac here.
He ain't from there. That's wrong.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know.
Ain't Dougie Fresh from Uptown?
Yeah, that's interesting. Got Puff. I don't know if I'll put Puff in the MC, but you know, he put out a couple songs, I guess. M.A.
Where's-
Dollar Sign E. We got ASAP Rocky, Biz Markie. Respect to him.
No, I love Bismarck Kid.
Yeah, of
Oh, yeah.
course, of course. And then of course we got Shaolin Island right here.
Ah,
Pretty much you can just say Wu Tang,
just like Wu-Tang.
Yeah, that's just Wu-Tang.
But with that said, which borough, I mean, you know, everyone has their own opinion, has had the greatest impact? It can be personally or it can be within hip hop, however you want to answer the question. If you know, if I can start off, I think for me, it starts with Run DMC just taking hip hop and sort of projecting it to the next level.
Big up.
I think Run DMC definitely spearheaded that. I think without Run DMC, I don't know where you would, you know, hip hop. I don't think hip hop would be where it currently resides. You know, and then from there, of course, we got LL Cool J. Come on, ladies love Cool J, man. You know,
Cool James.
Right. Then of course, as Lew mentioned, we got Q-Tip, Phife Dawg, we got Tribe Called Quest. Oh man, just classics. And then we got my favorite artist of all time. We got Nasir Jones. It ain't it ain't hard to tell. I excelled and prevail. I mean, just lyricism in its purest form. And then we got
MC Shan. They don't have him up there.
Yeah, they got him. He's down here. He's down there. Well, no. Did he MC Shan? Maybe.
Somebody was sleeping on the sticks.
Yeah, I see. But they got Cool G Rap though. That's the question. They got Cool G Rap. So for me, I would say Queens, and even beyond just the folks on this list, we got Russell Simmons, being from Queens, and of course, there's no hip hop without Def Jam music, right? So it's just, they brought, bringing out, the Beastie Boys and various other artists that sprung up from Def Jam Records. So for me, the most impact, has to come from QB, of course, has to come from Queens for all the reasons that I stated. So I got Queens holding it down. So
I have a question, just because it came. Public Enemy.
Where's Chuck D? Where's Long Island?
Yeah. So that's the tricky part. So New York City, I guess Long Island, if you're from New York, you sort of put Long Island in there, but it's not really a borough, per se. But yeah, but that's the point.
Take Long Island now because they standing strong.
Oh, without question. We got Rakim.
You got Public Enemy. That's two of the best.
There you go.
De La Soul.
There you go. You're right.
Them three right there is like what?
Right. You're right. Exactly right. You're right. So who wants to rep their borough? Whose borough, represents the hardest?
Well, I mean, again, like it depends on what you're looking at, but if you're gonna talk about Biggie Smalls, right? Like we could stop right there in Brooklyn, but we got Jay-Z, Biggie Smalls, Busta Rhymes. I mean, right then and there, I feel like, and Talib in terms of content and so forth.
They didn't put Chubb Rock up there. What?
Oh man, no Chubb
They're
Rock.
bugging. Chubb Rock is one of the nastiest out of there. You ask me.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. Yeah.
And then you put Mos Def. Like I'll match them, content and lyricists. The same. And who's not in here? Cypress Hill.
They're not from New York.
No, that's Cali. That's Cali.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Cypress
Hill. That's incredible because you're right. It is Cali, but you know why I always thought they were from Brooklyn? And it's so crazy.
The Cypress Hills, yes, in New York City. Yeah.
Right, like that's crazy because I never put it together because I was a little out of the scene by then. But Cypress Hill is a big part of Brooklyn, so I didn't know how they came up with that name. But
right.
Muggs is from Queens, I think.
Well, thank you for hipping me that. And he's not the greatest, but well, first of all, Big Daddy Kane, I'll put up there with people. And Old Dirty Bastard, I'm still, I get that I'm from the neighborhood, but I'll stack them up. Last person I want to ask about is Foxy Brown. Like, how can we leave her out, right? Like, how can we leave her out? Like that scene between, anyway. So that's where I'm gonna go.
You got BK, okay. So
Uh,
who you got, brother?
as far as the boroughs,
Right.
now I have to say, historically, my favorite borough has always been the Bronx. There's just a certain energy I get from there, you know. I'm listening to people talk to, and even people like the RZA said, you know, in his days when they was hungry MCs, they would go up to the Bronx because there was a lot of competition and a lot of people who was with it. Now, as far as just people being out, of course, I think KRS-One is the best, but but it's like when I look at all of this, I've always said that Queens and Brooklyn probably had the most, you know, quality and see like quality wise, you know. I suppose there's probably somebody living in the Bronx who eat everybody, but you know, he didn't get out yet. You know what I'm saying? But so I guess I'd have to go with.
And so, yeah, to the point, not to cut your wisdom, if you just talk about lyricists, I mean, I put Big Pun right up there with anybody. If we just talk about lyricists,
But
I
it's
mean,
nice, super
oh my
nice.
God, no question, no
I
doubt, no
mean,
doubt.
him, KRS-One,
Mhm.
they left out. They left what? Somebody didn't. They left out of the Bronx. They left out the Ultramagnetic MCs, Cool Keith. They left out Tim Dog. Um, wow, can't do that.
Mm.
But oh, and then they didn't put up AG and Showbiz. None of them.
They got AG there. They got AG there.
Oh, okay. There's AG.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's
okay.
funny. We can have a conversation about the folks left out of this list as opposed to the folks who they put on there.
That's what I'm saying. They didn't on the Queens joint. I was looking for the Beat Nuts. I didn't see them.
Mm.
These are quality groups. But anyway, I say I can't pick it out of Brooklyn and Queens. Queens might edge them only because Run DMC is from Queens, and Run DMC to me are like that. They're the kings. They took
Right.
it. They're the ones who brought me in pretty much like all the way. Before I was a fan, and then when Run DMC came around, I became a practitioner of the culture. And it was like a difference, you know what I'm saying? Before I was listening to Melly Mel, and I'm like, oh, that's, you know what I'm saying? Then when Run DMC came around, it was like, I kind of want to wear them sneakers. I like that, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
I was feeling them more personally than anything. So I guess I'd have to give it to Queens. But let me say this though, as far as people. Not from New York, but in my top, and then we're gonna probably get back to that. But in my top 10, I want to put in there. I think one of the greatest rappers ever live is MC Hammer, and I say that not because of his skills. I say it because MC Hammer was a full embodiment of hip hop. This dude, he went in the biz, he made money, he went back to his community, he brought people up off the block, he fed people, and then unfortunately, you know, the thing happened with his money, but he was the prototype to me. And he broke all the like he didn't necessarily do what everybody wanted to do, but hip hop was being different. This dude came different. He came with parachute pants. He came with a whole entourage of dancers and singers and all types of noise. I think people overstep him. And he was no joke in the streets if you know what time it is.
Yeah. Right. And Oakland's no joke. Oakland is no joke to that point. Right.
That's for sure.
Oakland is no joke.
I wanted to loop back to Run DMC.
Okay.
I love Run DMC, but no disrespect to them, but it also was the beginning of the commodification and corporatization of capitalist culture. Because they said, damn, people love this shit. Right? And so now we're gonna have to wear our sneakers, and we're gonna sell our sneakers through that. And I'm not hating on Run DMC, but we also have to see that was a other moment, pivotal moment, where the corporate culture saw what they could sell, and they used that to say just what Sundiata, damn, you know, like they did it with basketball players, Jordans. Everybody got to get Jordans, so now everybody's got to get what the Run DMC is wearing. again, no hatred on them, just saying that this is what the corporatists, the capitalists do. They see a market, they see a culture, and they say, how can we get in there?
Mhm.
And it was perfect marriage.
But to that point, Lou, just reflecting, and we've had conversations about Jay-Z and the impact that he's had on the NFL, but that's a topic for another day. But is it,
Guys, I gotta get this call. I gotta get the phone at the door. Someone's at the door. I'll be back.
okay? You got it.
I'm
it. My man, you got it.
Yeah, Bill Charles.
Right. But it's funny in our community. We always talk about keeping it real and not being a sellout. But it's just like, so your point about Hammer, you can't. Can you make an impact unless you have the bread? Like, can you make an impact unless you got the money and resources to really impact the masses? On a macro level. It's easy, to make beats and in your basement. It's easy to play ball without a camera watching you. But the folks that are making an impact are the folks who have the cameras in front of them. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, right? The folks that are making an impact are the folks on the radio. So I think it's particularly Black folks, it's tricky because obviously, we don't want to lose our soul, and we don't want to, carry on and, sort of lose our soul to the man, and, not just sort of just acquiesce to, all these different societal things, but it's just, are we falling behind in terms of not having that focus, right? Not having that entrepreneurial focus, not having that focus on getting money on a larger scale to really make an impact, and to that point, I think hip hop made that necessary pivot to make, impactful music while getting that money, while making money. Now, of course, it went another way, and just some money, thrown at them. But I think for Black folks in particular, I think in a lot of ways we're in the positions that we're in because we don't necessarily have that focus in terms of having money or thinking about the different avenues that we can make money while still staying true to who we are. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can stay true to who you are while still, garnering money. I think it's just a mindset that I think we as a people just needs to cultivate more, as other races do.
You know what? That's deep what you're saying, because that's the way you just broke it down. I think that's at the core of our problem. We don't want to sell out, but at the same time, we understand that you need capital to do things. Other people use capital, share capital, build with capital, but for some reason we feel like it's bad. Unfortunately, then we haven't used, I think what it is we don't have a mature way of going about it. You see what I'm saying? Because of being deprived of it for so long, deprived of power, deprived of, the feeling of self-reliance. So then when you get a little something, you won't know how to act. You know what I mean? And so there ain't nothing wrong with getting money, like you're saying. We're supposed to be trying to, to help people if you have nothing to help them with, like you're saying. What's the old saying? They say they didn't build the pyramids with welfare checks. You know what I mean? Right. They have something, but you don't want to rob, maim, and kill and be exploited and exploit in order to get it. All money ain't good money.
Good point. So, with that point, so Lou, basically I made the point that the lack of, I guess, folks within the inner cities, particularly Black folks, not having that focus in terms of how to make money, how to be an entrepreneur, sort of like have money work for you, I think in a lot of ways has killed the Black community. So, I think folks have taken it, the common phrase, money is the root of all evil, and sort of made it as an excuse not to make money or use it as an excuse to not want to have money. When, I think if used properly, capital can sort of cultivate, impact on a larger scale if folks just knew how to have money work for you as opposed to the other way around. So I do think hip hop can be used as a vehicle to just, sort of have young people, not only young people, just everyone in general, just begin to just have that mindset of having money work for us. And just to have that, mindset in terms of not being afraid to have money or, thinking that money is evil, and just sort of using it in the proper channels to really make an impact on the lives of, our families, and I think that's what's lacking with a lot of, particularly people of color within the inner city.
That old
Yeah,
saying, I think I'm gonna let you speak, Lou. I'm just gonna
go
say
ahead.
to that old saying, I think people get it twisted. It's the love of money.
There you go.
Of all evil. You know what I mean?
Right.
It ain't money, it's the love of it. You know
Right.
what I mean? Well, go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say it's a complicated question, right? Because if sections of the population, in this case, black folks,
Right.
don't have access to anything, then of course, when you're deprived, then you're going to fight. And there's nothing wrong with money. It can't be just white people having money. But I remember my friend Charles saying, we're not trying to develop a situation where we have black capitalists exploiting black people, right? So that's the problem. I don't care what color somebody is. So for instance, someone like um, someone who I respect a lot, Harry Belafonte, who made lots of money and was a great actor and a great activist. Danny Glover is another one. He took his money, he lived good, he should live good, but he gave his money back to the community. He didn't exploit other black people and get money. And that is the problem. It's just a horrific problem, right? Because the system itself brings itself to look. And I'm just going to stop at this. Jay-Z's given away lots of money. He has. He's given away lots of money. He's made lots of money. So was the head of Amazon. He's made trillions of dollars. Dude's given away hundreds of millions of dollars. That doesn't flow for me. Because the way he's made his money and what he does, it doesn't. So it's I don't have a good answer to it. I'm just saying I'm much more down with people like Immortal Technique, Talib, KRS-One, because they stayed true to the nature of hip hop.
Right. Right.
And I don't, and I want to just say this, and this is because you two are my brothers. It's a lot easier saying it as a white man, right? Like me judging other folk. I'm not even sure I should be. I should be, but I feel comfortable with us talking about it. But, I'm in a privileged position. So, I can be dropping knowledge and, oh, yeah, it's easy for you to say, you got yours. I don't have an argument for that except to say, I got mine by being a principal and a teacher and an activist. I didn't get it another way, but I had privilege that no one else, that you all don't have. No matter what happens, I got privilege.
Mm. As you're saying that just that builds in me specific feelings, just in terms of I guess posing the question for both of you. Like, what's the responsibility that artists have in terms of their artistry? Is there responsibility for artists to sort of provide a workable balance in terms of course, projecting, some of the ills of society, but then, of course, giving individuals, knowledge of self? Like, do artists have a responsibility with their art form in terms of the way it's portrayed? And Sundiata, you could probably perhaps talk about this even, on a greater scale than Lew and I, because you are an artist. So where do you think that responsibility is? A responsibility? What's the percentage in terms of artists, doing what they feel in terms of their art form?
No, I see like being a artist who looks like me. We can't be held. You can't hold the whole thing on your shoulders. You know what I mean? You can't.
Yeah.
You can't speak for the whole people every time you go and do something. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel like if you're on a sinking boat, you need to be helping with shoveling out some of that water to keep it afloat. You know what I mean? If you realize that. You know,
listen to Sundiata preach.
Just artists, we're in a powerful position. You get a chance to shape mind, give people a chance to think. You got vibrations behind your words, which all of that is, manifestation. So if you're gonna do that kind of stuff, you should be somewhat responsible for what you say and say and project, because it can be, it can happen. And in most cases, it will in somebody's life.
Right. Yeah. And I think, what Charles Barkley said, I'm not a role model. I think because you have so much money, I think you just have a strong personal opinion. No one has to agree. I think there is a responsibility just in terms of, presenting yourself in the proper image. As educators, Sundiata, you can speak about this as well. I've always felt that, I've always had to carry myself a certain way because I had, young shorties looking at me as a role model, for better or for worse, right? So I couldn't come to work looking crazy with like beat up shoes or, holes in my shirt or, looking crazy with a turnaround hat and just start teaching. I felt that for me personally, it was important to really present myself in a certain way so that kids can see, yes, I'm from your neighborhood. Yes, my father died when I was young, single parent house. My mother, did her damnedest to make sure that I was afforded, various things, but I had to work my butt off to get it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm from where you're from. So I do think a lot of artists and just, people in power sort of, skirt their responsibility just in terms of, well, I'm not your daddy. I can't, I can't do anything for you. But I do think you can because, to your point, Sundiata, just the images that you see on television is perhaps as powerful as anything that can be taught inside the classroom. I think no matter what we're teaching them, they can just put something in the ear that sort of totally deviates from what was being taught. So I think in a lot of ways, they have the most powerful form of expression that exists in our world. And I think there is a responsibility that, in terms of like what you're presenting out there, I think, artists, always talk about the gold, but, it's your responsibility to find out, well, why did Egyptians focus in on gold? Like what's the significance of King Tut and others getting themselves buried in gold and constantly wearing gold? Like, I think it's a responsibility for artists to really, present, I think, information for, young shorties such as myself when I was growing up, just to have more knowledge of self to sort of not necessarily teach you, but just sort of push you in the right direction in terms of you just, teaching yourself. And I do think there is a responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Chuck D did that for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh. So Charles, Sundiata doesn't know this about you. Tell him what you were doing before you became a servant of the people.
Uh-oh, which part?
I'm not talking about. We're not talking about our gangster days. I'm talking about what line of work you were going to go into, or maybe you were in it for a short period of time.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, so I think I built maybe I don't think we were recording at the time. Yeah, so I was an econ major in college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and my goal was just to make money. You don't grow up with money; you just want to have it. You know what I mean? So, right. So I thought that's what I was going. I was pretty good with numbers, so I just assumed that I'll work on Wall Street, become a multimillionaire, and just do that. But I think your calling, I think it's sort of chosen for you as opposed to you making that decision. And even beyond that, I've always worked well with kids, and once I decided, there's this program, teaching fellow program where they take individuals who didn't necessarily graduate on the track towards becoming a teacher. They sort of give them the skills by getting this free masters, and you're learning how to become a teacher, like literally on the job. So I wasn't, classically trained as a teacher, but I sort of learned on the job after college. I was in this program, and from there it just took off, and I never looked back. Just in terms of me working with kids and me just doing my part in terms of giving them, another perspective in terms of opening up their mindset beyond what they see into like a life and a lifestyle, which is, attainable if you just, make the proper decisions in life.
Right,
you could have been rich
inside of you, because because we talked about this. This is a psychotic nature, particularly of growing up poor and being black, right?
Right.
Who could have faulted you if you had decided, what, I'm going to go into this hedge fund shit and I'm going to make me some money because it's always white people making money. Why can't I get some of my own? And it's psychotic. But something inside of you said no, because you're right. You saw a program, a teacher's program, right? But you didn't have to say yes to it.
Right.
Yes at all. But so what inside of you? Where did you somewhere to learn? I think some of it's from your mama, just because I know something about her. But something said something to you that no, I deserve money, but I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do something that helps my people.
I was just reflecting on, with Sundiata being an elementary school teacher, man, brother, you are a diamond in the rough, man. You are a needle in a haystack. There's just not many, just not even just being a Black educator, but just being a qualified, just brilliant Black man in the field, specifically working with elementary, school students. I think that just puts you on another level. But Lew, to answer your question,
with middle-aged and middle school kids, and Lew, I was telling them, middle school and high school, you just
right.
Heroes.
Right. So, what's fun to answer your question, I just felt like, and I guess this is just my conceit, I felt like no one can give, kids that look like me, the perspective that I can give in the classroom. So I just felt it's my duty, it's my obligation to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things, I just felt obligated to do it. And then necessarily had the role models, particularly, in the classroom. I can't think of a Black male teacher that I had other than Jim, but I mean, physical education, but that's, I don't know. But, with that said, I just felt, as specifically a math teacher, I can sort of present things in a different way, which makes it more relatable to kids. And I've always strived to do that, just in terms of providing that relevance, with my teaching. So Lew, just to answer your question, I just think it was my obligation. Where it came from, that knowledge of self, I think, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, that spark for me, I guess I could say it started with hip hop in a lot of ways, just in terms of, right, it started because, there were times when, and we're gonna, delve into this, my father passed away, so my mom and, we lived in like public housing, right? So it's just, I mean, we're talking rough. We're talking about, dudes, people like selling drugs like in the hallways and like in the stairwell. So it was rough maneuvering that sort of environment, So, with that said, just hearing, hip hop artists just talk about the books that they read, specifically Nas in general, just hearing Malcolm X, it just led me to just like having a love for books. And I was a voracious reader, growing up. And I think that sort of opened up my eyes just in terms of thinking beyond my circumstance. Oh, yeah. I think that specifically came from reading, to answer your question, Lew. I don't think a lot of folks have that perspective. And I think it sort of, I think for me, it was cultivated through reading, definitely.
Right. And just for people who are listening, I don't know if anyone's listening but the three of us. No way. Charles is being immodest about his mom. His mom was a brilliant woman who also read and thought about things. And he's growing up in Jamaica around a lot of dudes that you got, what Charles said, you had to navigate, right? Like, how can you be down and be an intellectual at the same time? That's not an easy thing. But, his mom also, she gave.
Yeah, she wasn't having it. If I was up at a certain time, she was out there looking for me. She was that mom. Yeah, she was about that life, definitely.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. She was in that way, and I wish I had gotten to meet her. Charles knows I wish I could have married her, but that's another story. Then Charles could have been my baby boy, right?
Oh man.
You know me, I always go off the rope.
That's you, brother. That's why I love your crazy ass, man.
There's no censorship in my mind. I don't know how to do it. But what he tells me about his mom's also, though, was that she read a lot and she had him read a lot. So it wasn't just, she just wasn't a hard-ass woman. She was an intellectual, too.
No doubt. No doubt.
And that's something that we miss in the Black and brown communities more, which, Charles knows I said this, there's genocide, but there's intellectual genocide, like the murdering of curiosity, of reading, of like what you do, Sundiata, the stuff that you do. That made a difference for Charles, I think, in a big, big way. And so I'm riffing here, but then he gets into this hedge fund bullshit that, trying to make money off of money, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but there was another clock ticking inside. And so, sorry, Charles, I don't think it's just that you're conceited, though. You're one of the most conceited motherfuckers I have ever met in my life.
God, how about confident? Can we say confident?
You said conceited. I didn't say that. But yes, you're confident as well. It borders on conceit. But you also had love for people, you had love for people, and you had the love for knowledge. That's what moved you in that way. And hip hop was expressing some of that as you were growing up. So, you know, I just want to bring that out. That's it's and both y'all are both like that. I'm like that for a different reason, but we didn't have to choose this path.
I think to that point, Sundiata actually took it to that next level. He actually writes books. So, I mean, it's just clear for me to, you know, for me to understand in terms of the connection with why you just had a love for hip hop because of your love for reading and now actually writing books, right, brother? I mean, let's talk about that connection a little bit.
Well, I loved hip hop, you know, from the first time I heard it, you know. Just I remember listening to Rapper's Delight over and over and over. My mother had this.
Oh,
Right, right.
This
was that before? That was before you, Charles, right?
You had to push it back the whole.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit before. Yep.
I'll rewind it. Okay, now I can play it. So I fell in love with it then. I was already writing. I tell the story. My grandmother used to ask me to write poems when people died. You know, when you know in her church. She lived out in Denver, and so I used to do that. So that's how the things came together. But I was thinking when you two were talking that the real problem to me is the fact. I think the tragedy is the fact that you or me or Lou would have to choose. Oh well, you know, you're good at math. You're good with numbers.
Okay.
You went and did that. Made money. You should have the freedom and choice to do that without feeling the burden of having to fight and get in the streets and work with your people to get a better day. But the situation is that's what it is. And so that's why I think it's kind of a tragedy. It's like, how long has that been going on? How many generations is this going to happen where people say, well, you know what? I don't want to, I can't, I'm going to do this thing here because it's more relevant. It's more, my people need it. I got to do this when I would prefer to do that. But this is more important right now. And so my grandfather said that, my father said that, and I'm saying that. And is my kid going to be saying that too? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I just think is, you know, it's too bad we can't just express ourselves and just be who we want to be. You know what I mean?
Lou, you call it the psychosis of being black in America, and you articulate that so well. Of course, you're not black, but it's just like that statement right there is just.
What are you talking about?
You want to show everybody your tat? That's what I'm saying. Don't show you yet. But it's just to your point, Sundiata, we're not allowed to just be a regular dude who just wants to. You know, it's a certain persona that I think black men in particular we have to always present. You know, to the world, and it's actually unfair. You know, in terms of we're not allowed to just be a nerd. We're not allowed to just just simply be a painter or something that sort of deviates from masculinity. We just have to sort of always project that that ultra male persona, that ladies man, that ball player, and I think that's where a lot of black in particular, we just have gone astray in a lot of ways, just in terms of not being able to just have that mic. And to really, state our truth to the world, man. Yeah, right.
I say being yourself is so hard. Something's supposed to be so hard. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be hard, but just being yourself is harder than what you're ready to do. And it's hard because if you really are yourself, then you got to deal with people talking about you. You got to deal with, oh, so you're soft. Right? Oh, because you smile a lot. I've had people, I used to hang with some cats, they'd be like, yo, what's up with your man? He's always smiling. What's up with him, man? And it's like, what, he's soft or something? It's like, nah, he's happy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I mean, real talk. You know what I mean? You be around some cats smiling too much, that's a problem. It's going to test you.
Right. Because I was going to say I know you were smiling in the good way, Sundiata, but I knew cats that were smiling, and that smile meant it's about to go off, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
It's about to go off. And so that's what I mean about the kind of psychosis again. I keep talking about it because it's psychotic. It's psychotic for all of us on one level, just trying to be human. but there's white privilege makes it so that it's insane psychotic if you're black in this country, because just what you said, any choice you make, they're coming at you sideways. And so I wanted to hear a little bit, either from you, Charles, you or Sundiata, how you navigated that, how you still navigate that. Because I know Charles and I talk about it with my son and his son now, like with Charlie, like we want him. We can I tell that one story, Charles, about Charles with the school kid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Charlie is like one of the sweetest dudes you'll ever meet. Cynthia, when you meet him, you'll just love him. You won't understand how he came from Charles, given how mild and how self-facing he is. I love to go after my brother. He knows that's love. That's the real love. But seriously, so he got in some kind of beef with some kid at school, or he got whatever. And Charlie never gets. He just doesn't do that. He's a gentle soul. But this dude, he stood to. He stepped to him.
Right.
And Charlie stepped in. And Charlie had to go into the principal's office and say, yeah, it wasn't the best thing. We should use our words and try to work it out. And then me and Charles said, damn, Charlie, that's my boy.
Exactly.
He steps to you, you step back. Fuck the words.
Right.
That's a psychotic thing. There's Charles with his own son saying, we want you to use words, Charlie. We don't want you to escalate the situation. On the other hand, yes, that's my boy. He stood his ground.
Reality. It's reality.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story. Because I know my daughter, when she was in 7th grade, she had sixth grade. She said she had a fight one day at school. So what happened was some 8th grade girl was sitting at a table behind her or something, and some girl at her table threw something and hit the girl. The girl thought my daughter did it, but my daughter didn't know nothing about it. She's sitting there eating her food. Girl comes up, well, what'd you do? What'd you do that for? My daughter was like, I didn't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? And so the girl hits her with a tray. Now, I'm not there. I'm getting this story. I got the story from my daughter and her friend who was there. So hits my daughter with the tray. And so they scuffle and rumble and this and that. And I hear my daughter did a little work. So her grandmother, my mother, comes to visit for Thanksgiving that year. And it happened right around that time. So my daughter's she's embarrassed because she doesn't want her grandma to know she's got in trouble fighting at school or whatever.
Right.
So, my mother finds out. And so my daughter's like, well, Grandma Annie, I'm sorry to that. She was like, did you whip her?
Right.
My daughter, she kind of looked at me like, and I was like, yeah.
Right.
That's who she is. You didn't know?
Right.
This is the lady who made me go back. You got beat? Go back outside.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I got beat up one day. I got jumped by 3 dudes, right? I'm young. I got jumped. You probably know the dudes too, Lou. I ain't gonna tell you who they are.
He probably does, man.
One of them is Lance Fisher.
Yeah, I see. I don't want to know because I probably did know him, and Charles knows I got some bad roots. But
oh man, that's putting it mildly, man. Maybe I'll put the story out there. One of these roots, but we'll talk about that for another show.
I apologize if they were anybody I knew. I apologize.
Oh no, it's all good. I mean, we was young, you know what I mean. But anyway, I got beat up. I came home, told I got jumped. You know what I mean. I got jumped because I beat another dude up earlier that day, and that was April. And so I told my mother, and she didn't say much at all, but she knew I had this one particular shirt. It's this blue shirt, and whenever I thought I was, strong or whatever, I was gonna do something, I'd always wear my blue shirt. So the next morning, I woke up and the blue shirt was there. She was like, "Go get him." You know what I'm saying? That's how she is. Like, not really, not a violent person, but she comes from a stock where they fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think I'm the one who tried to change that cipher. I'm not a violent person at all. I'm very peaceful.
Right.
But family's not necessary.
Mm.
but it is that thing of like, depending on where you came up, you can only be so peaceful, and then no, you're not going to step to me, and then I'm going to use my words. Forget the words. Now it's on, right? Like
But
that's
adding to that point, so what percentage would you give in terms of music or hip hop specifically, having, I guess, or being sort of the modicum or the message that sort of guided your behaviors growing up or guided the person who you are now? If you guys had to put a percentage on it in terms of what percentage would you give hip hop in terms of its impact on who we are and who we became or who we are as people, like right now, what percentage would you give that?
Well, that's a deep question.
So it's sort of like what came first, the chicken or the egg, you know? So it's just, it's hip hop just sort of a reflection of societal, norms or evils, or does hip hop sort of shape those evils?
You can tackle that first, Lew. I gotta think about that one. That's heavy.
First of all, I think it is an interaction. There's always an interaction between the kind of material world and the culture and the ideas, and they go back and forth. And the ideas come from the world, right? Like hip hop someone didn't go in their head and go, let me make up hip hop. It was like, no, I'm going to create out of my experience. And then it goes back and forth. Well, I think it had a tremendous effect, less so on me, only because I was already a grown person. I mean, I was 19 when hip hop really hit, like Houdini and Grandmaster. I was 18 or 19. It affected me, but it had a different effect than I think it had for you all, because you came up, that was the music of the day.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a harder sound than we had ever heard before, but we liked it. Like we listened to Motown. That's what we listened to. We danced, and it's the different. It was a different era. But I would say the way it affected me is it got at the levels of anger that I felt in my life, or the party, and just let me reframe that. How it changed for me was like I was kind of in that culture, obviously, and people would look at me sideways, right? And it gave everybody permission that no, this culture is down. This is cool. This is whatever. Um, and it started to encapsulate more white folks than before. That was not early on, but as it went along. So there's a part of me, and then I'm going to shut up. There's a part of me that's resentful because like all these white people who used to call me the blank lover and made fun of all that music and stuff. Then they all of a sudden they got hip and it was cool. And it's like I want the people. Charles knows this. I hate white people way more than Charles hates white people. I just do.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
I don't mean all the white people, but I'm saying all the people who are fronting. They like it. I call them culture vultures. They want the culture. They don't want to do anything else. So what for me is it gave permission to just be me in a way that was not true previous to hip hop, because before hip hop there wasn't much mixing at all. And I'm gonna have to go in a minute. I hate leaving you all, but I have to go to my meeting where we're working with the tenants.
Important stuff.
It is important. It's really beautiful, and I love you too. I want to stay on and hear what you say. I'll be a little late to the meeting. I'll tell them. I'll make up some bullshit. Just let me hear you two. I want to hear what you have to say.
If I could answer on the Sunday, Dad, if you want to go.
Yeah.
I think just when answering my own question, I do think I think it depends, being honest with you. I think from hip hop's origin up until, let's say, middle to late 80s, maybe even early 90s, I do think hip hop had sort of a positive impact It was, but I do think because, there were so many different societal norms that played during that time, crack and just like drugs was just punched, Black folks in particular, Latinos as well, in the mouth in terms of like the 80s, in terms of like where it, it created monsters in a lot of ways. But again, that's not from our own doing. I think there was greater forces at play that sort of put that monster in our communities. But that's another subject for another day. So I do think because we don't control, and I'm speaking about artists, because artists don't control what they put out there in terms of mainstream artists, I think hip hop is a negative modicum or a negative vehicle for impacting society right now. Because if the folks that control it don't look like us, don't look like a majority of the consumers, don't look like the artists, but the folks, to your point, Lou, they represent fat cat capitalists whose only objective is to create a certain type of person and to create an individual that sort of doesn't have that mindset of not looking outside of themselves for truth. I think the truth is within, but I do think the messaging that comes out there is to sort of be dependent and to look at another person as representing the evil in your life as a stumbling block. So I think to answer my own question, I do think hip hop now, I would say it's close to maybe even 90%, just in terms of the power that it has over young people, because I think the messaging that's portrayed doesn't come from our voice. I don't think we have a voice at all in terms of the messaging that's put out there and mainstream wise. And unfortunately, Sundiata and I, we had, underground rap, and we had like other ways and other avenues, and we were able to just take in rap in its purest form. But I think now, unfortunately, that's out of young people and that's out of the masses' hands right now. So I think, unfortunately, the negative impacts that hip hop has on society, particularly young people, is tremendous. And I think it's close to 100%.
Deep. I mean, for me, I'm just kind of thinking about what you both said. I guess I think hip hop is at least, it's hard to put a number on it. The culture is underneath the culture, like it came on and it found itself so deep that it's like now it's in everything that we see, everything that we hear. There's some hip hop, there's a beat, there's some form of semblance to hip hop. Unfortunately, it's been watered down, dumbed down, and now being used to program. So, I mean, the effect of it, I think, is at least 75 to 80%.
Yeah.
Me personally, I think it would probably more be like 60 to 70%, because I was actually I we're all old enough to seen it grow. But I was doing it when it first came out, and I was young, but I saw it, and so now I'm still not old, so I'm where it has affected me for a good portion of my life. But there was a time when it didn't exist in its form that I got a chance to see that too. I'm originally a funk head, you know what I'm saying? I think if I was a little bit older, I'd have been going to all the P-Funk joints, you know what I mean, with Certain Nose, Devoid, and all of them. Start and doing my thing,
Right.
So I think hip hop was like a logical jump, culture wise. You know what I'm saying? The business part of it coming. So that's kind of where the deepness of your question comes in. I think it had a good and bad effect. It's just, for me, it kept me out of the streets and it kept me in the streets. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I was breakdancing in the streets, but I wasn't beefing and trying to stab people and rob people. You know what I mean? When my brother got in trouble, he would do graph. You know what I'm saying? While we would listen to hip hop beats and songs and stuff and study hip hop, and use our mind in a different way.
Right.
But see, then when the music got ill and they started talking about killing people and gangster stuff and all of that,
Mm.
So I didn't gravitate toward that, even though I think G-Rap is one of the best of all times. You know what I'm saying? I didn't gravitate towards the thought process just because that's not who I am. But I did learn to expand my thought patterns, because you don't have to be like the people that you're listening to or like. You know, you don't have to be just like them. Okay, that's how you feel. You want to be like so and so? Yeah. You like them? Yeah. You want to be like them? Yeah.
I think you said it, brother. Expansion of thought, patterns. And Lew, you touched on this earlier in terms of the navigation piece, like how we're able to navigate. I think because we just had various other avenues besides hip hop to sort of form our thinking in the proper way. Because to that point, I was listening to, I don't know if we have time in this podcast, in terms of like my favorite, music growing up. And, I was all about, Wu-Tang and Cream, Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money down. That was my anthem right there. You know what I mean? So it's, but I was always able to separate it in terms of not overstepping, not overstepping myself in terms of getting into something which is going to, not only provide harm for me, but provide harm for my family, and in terms of my mother and my family as well. So it was just, I think it was helpful for me to just have like other streams of messaging, with books and my mom and just like various other avenues that sort of help balance what I was, unfortunately hearing from hip hop in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of kids don't have that balance. It's just, they don't have, positive figures or positive outlets. Like you had Sundiata with like just being an artist, they just have no other positive avenues to really express themselves. So if they just hear negative images, too negative, you add too negative, you're still gonna have a negative number. You know what I mean? It's just still remains negative. There's no balance. We had the positive and negative sort of all set, so it sort of provided balance for our lives. Didn't make us totally, either way, but we had balance. And unfortunately, I just think a lot of kids and a lot of adults never had that balance. It's unfortunate.
That's a smart thing.
I do have to go. I'm really sorry, but another topic for, I think, about hip hop, and just because we're broadening it, like the way young people are growing up today, particularly in Black and brown communities. It's also white kids too. There's a sense of nihilism, like there's nothing matters, no, and because there, in my opinion, there's no political, social, real movements out there that they can wrap their heads around. It's, all about me, all about money, all about hurting people. It's get mine. I'd like to talk about that. That's fine, but I really do have to go to this. But much love to both of you. I look forward to these Wednesdays. They're the best.
Peace, brother.
All right. And then that point you were saying about man, there was something I was going to comment on. You had made some good points just now about just rewind me a little bit what the last thing you said.
What did I say? Just in terms of the navigation piece, in terms of how we were able to navigate and just having different I guess
balance. That's what it was.
Voices. Yep.
We're talking about balance. It's like I look at if I'm to look at it in the scope, I would say I agree with what you said. I would say that like people, I suppose around our age, whatever that may be, but judging on the knowledge of hip hop, the time periods that I think we're talking about, we had a balance of knowledge, science, self-knowledge, you know what I'm saying? And gangster stuff, we had pimp stuff, we had drug stuff. You know what I mean? I love to be honest about everything because, to me, I think the first gangster hip-hop was Just Ice, if I'm not mistaken. It was him or Schoolie D.
Right.
And long before there was an NWA or, or anything like that.
Right.
And they were talking about gangster stuff. And, Just Dice talked about a few different things. They didn't go as deep. Then the EP came out. something I think Criminal Minded set the stage
Mm.
for what you heard in coming out of some of that stuff in the West Coast, and that's been kind of documented. Not like necessarily Ice-T, although some people talk about a connection between Schoolie and Ice-T.
Mm.
But that whole the NWA connection with BDP, it was sort of like a West Coast expression that had that same kind of beat vibe.
Right.
He did. BDP to me
Right.
had a lot of hidden science in the first album.
Mm.
They weren't just in your face with it, but
Right.
if you listen,
Right.
there was a lot of metaphysics in Criminal Minded.
Mm.
He brought it with some politicals
There you go.
with by all means necessary.
Right.
Around I say about the fourth album, we started talking about metaphysics flat out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now he deals with that all the time. Then he talks about indigeneity, he talks about lots of different things now. That's why I got him as the GOAT. I don't hear nobody talking about that stuff. Especially not anymore. There have been people.
I think Rakim delved into it. I got a taste of that a little bit. When I was in college, the 18th letter, he sort of dived into that metaphysical. I'm saying? There's a question. There was a song, "Who Is God?" and he just dives into the metaphysics in terms of, his perspective in terms of what God is, and then
definitely have talked about it. Most
Killer Priest as well. I recall him as well, just diving into that. Cannabis tried, but that's another subject for another. What happened with cannabis? I think he tried to bring that out there. He just went all the way over to that side, and he just never came back. I don't know, but when he came out, oh man, talk about knowledge itself. Cannabis had it, man. He was talking that talk.
He was an ill battle MC too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that he didn't get his due props.
No doubt. He had LL on the ropes. And of course, LL, Mr. Ripper came out swinging, of course. He knocked him out. But I mean, he had LL on the ropes. I mean, second round knockout was tough, man.
It's just L is that dude, if you want to battle L, unfortunately, it's not necessarily about how nice you are on the mic.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about L is L has the popularity, he has
there you go,
charisma, and he can rock that mic. L got verses.
And he had the respect from everybody. He had the street cred. He had, of course, the ladies, and that's his name. But he had respect from everybody. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I saw him, I think it was, we had a thing right around Christmas or something, where they had a whole bunch of different MCs come in, and it was all
really this past Christmas last year.
This year,
wow,
it was all performed. So they went from this one to that one to this one to that one.
Wow, wow.
If you ask me, L might have ripped the hardest. You know what I mean?
He doesn't get his props, man. I don't know the reason why. He just doesn't get his props. I think Busta doesn't get. I think Busta's in that list as well. Like, I don't know what it is, but we talking about dudes who just put it down, man. They just. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, 1 second. You can keep. I can hear you, but I gotta move around, and I don't want something to be seen in my crib.
Yeah.
I'm still with you though.
Okay.
So yeah, Busta.
Right.
And who else did you say?
Underrated MCs. Listen, man, you mentioned Pharoah Monch. I think, oh my God, he's incredible. I mean, we're talking top flight. I mean, his wordplay is just out of this world, man.
He's ridiculous. He's one of the best ever.
No doubt. I think it's interesting. So for an artist to be, underrated, I mean, are we talking about mainstream? Are we just talking about public appeal? I mean, there's so many different, aspects to it, top of my head, another underrated MC. Let me see. You got one on the top of your head?
I'm thinking.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see. I don't know if does Big Daddy Kane get his due? You think?
Most definite.
Do you think he gets his due? Because I think he gets overshadowed by Rakim.
MCs, people don't, people speak MC, they speak Kane's name with respect.
Right.
Anybody like really say, "Oh, Kane's whacking her"? No, you better.
When you hear like everyone's top list, they always got Rakim on there, but very rarely do you see folks put in Big Daddy Kane. And you tell me, you would know better than me. I think Big Daddy Kane and Rakim was just like, it was like Jay-Z and Nas. It was just like those two were like right there, right?
Well, yeah, during that time period, yeah. I mean, that was the battle that people wanted to see.
Right.
But, I think in the long run, they was different MCs. You know what I'm saying? Rakim is not really a battle MC. He can battle.
Right.
I think he'll rip a nigga's ass.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt.
He just seems to be almost not above battling, but it's like his skills are not. He don't seem to just utilize them for that. Kane is a battle MC. And part of this is what I hear Kane saying himself. That Rakim is not really a battle MC. Although I think Rakim was the battle, it'd be war and hell war. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What you think?
See, that's the thing. From I mean, you know better than me, but from what I heard, I think Rakim probably got him a little bit just in terms of impact and wordplay. I think Rakim got it, but again, that's not a knock on Big Daddy Kane. I just think that's Rakim a lot. We're talking about it's just who you like, Magic and Larry. I mean, they're both nice with it, but it's just who's your preference, right? They both had nice with it, and they both went about their business in a different way. Big Daddy Kane was a smooth operator, literally. That was a smooth operator, right? Whereas Rakim, to your point, was like, speaking about that knowledge of self, and I think it's just all about preference.
The thing is, Rakim, I think people say that he's talked a little bit about knowledge and stuff, but Rakim just, to me, is more of just a poet who just talks about whatever it was because he knew how to make it sound poetic, dope, street gritty, just I don't know, man. He had another flair.
It's funny, as I'm talking, I'm thinking about our earlier conversation, and I wonder, thinking about LL and Busta, and in terms of the image that black men have to portray. I'm not calling them soft by any means, obviously. If you know their stories, they're not. But it's just their message or their music wasn't necessarily the hardest music. So I wonder if they get knocked or get like certain pegs down on the totem pole of hip hop, because they're not really talking about guns, and they're not talking about killing people. They're not talking about just the negative aspects of our society. They're keeping it real about certain things, but no, LL and Busta and like various other artists.
Oh yeah.
Why they're not put on like the upper echelon? And I think a lot of times, because of who they are, they're sort of like on a lower peg than like a Jay-Z and others, because Jay-Z talked about the drug game because he wasn't lying about it. That's what he knew, and that's what he did. Whereas LL Cool J and Busta and a few others didn't necessarily do that. So I wonder. The reason why they're not, held to the same esteem as a Jay-Z is because the message isn't as hard, and black folks just sort of, always got to keep it real. So we got to put, sort of artists who sort of resonate with like, presenting a certain persona and presenting a certain image as being the top dogs, something to think about.
Well, I think it also depends on who you ask, because with some people, I agree, but then. You got some people like me who I feel I'm more of the person who, if I find out that you had feelings and you never even talked about it in your records, that to me is even more ill. You know what I mean? That if you was deep in the street and yet you still was able to talk about this, that, and the other thing.
And Rakim didn't even curse. You know what I'm saying? Like
very rarely.
I mean, very rarely, like here and there, but it's just. Woo, when that's not a part of your vernacular, God, woo.
That to me puts him up there. That's what puts him above so many people, because it's almost like a slapstick comedian versus like a real versed comedian. Somebody who's just you might say something or can snap on somebody. It's cool. It's a skill, but you know that's not going to stand up to. If you ask me, it's not going to stand up to a Richard Pryor or you know
Yeah.
someone who's really
Right.
like, on many different levels is dealing with things. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So like for with L and Bit and Buster and like Large Professor, people
There
like
you
that,
go. Right.
they don't get the they don't get that street thing. I don't think they get disrespect. They get credit for being from the street,
No
but
doubt.
they don't talk about being, you know, quote unquote street dudes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just think that that's just us being stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like people, like
Right.
listen, you know, why is it first of all that we put in such high esteem these people who's doing crime? Okay,
Yeah.
so we're keeping it real and all of that, but how many of us really, really was happy when you was by yourself in a squad of 12 dudes got on the bus talking wild? How many of us really, really like them nights?
No doubt.
You know, for those of us who really come up from around some shit,
No
we
doubt.
been through them nights, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or just, you know, where you go someplace and all of a sudden something jump off and they licking shots or they licking shots at your peoples or you're
Right.
involved in something. I mean, all of that. I just think there's too much glorification of that bullshit. You know what
No
I'm
doubt.
saying? And
Right.
so when people talk about it, they're not full of shit. They're talking about real shit.
Mm.
People who are listening is giving that way too much credit. Like Chris Rock said, how come a dude coming home from prison, it's like, oh son, we got to do this, we got to celebrate. The dude
Right.
come home from college and they're like, yeah, nigga, but I bet you can't whip my ass though.
Right. 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 Right.
We
Right.
got issues, you know what I'm saying? Some of that
Yeah.
psychotic shit that Lew was talking about is real talk.
No doubt.
We
Yeah,
got
it's the trauma of being a black man in America, man. I think that a lot of us, you know, listen, I still got my issues, you know what I'm saying? It's just a lot of it just like gets swept under the rug. Let's keep it real, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that I guess we don't talk about a lot, just in terms of you know, us just uh not focusing, that's to your point, just on the negative aspects of what's going on in society and just, you know, thinking about and projecting a different sort of perspective, a different aura, you know what I mean? Just a different vibe. Um, a lot of black men, we're not able to do that, you know, for better or for worse. Yeah. But it's an interesting question in terms of why do, you know, certain of us make it while, you know, some of us don't. Man, it's an interesting question, man. It cuts deep in terms of, you know, the who, the how, the, you know, like what sort of like decisions that we made, perhaps even subconsciously, that sort of put us in better positions in life, you know, because we didn't grow up with silver spoons in our mouth, right? But, you know, we sort of made it in you know, in every sense of the word. But so what separates us from someone who didn't, you know?
Well, G, the Eldrin is this. And, you know, when the question was asked early in the conversation, when the three of us was on, I was thinking, you know, I like it. Sounds good to say that we made it and, you know, how did we get through this and how do we get through that and how do we do it now? But the reality is that it ain't never over for us.
There we
We
go.
every day that we get up and go out of here, it's real. I mean, it's the same thing. Ain't nothing changed. So it's like the positive, the aura, the vibe, what you were just talking about. That to me is the most important thing. Yea, though I walk through a valley of death,
Mm,
no sword formed against me shall prosper.
mm,
That type of thinking, you know what I mean?
right.
Because you know, in our situation, I mean, you up there in Newark, you're from Queens,
Mm,
you don't really know what's, you know what I mean? It ain't nothing but rough up there. So, you know what I
right.
mean? You have to have a good energy where you go. I know some cats, man, if you ask me, they could go anywhere and be fine
No
because
doubt. Right.
energy. We talk, a lot of cats talk to 5% style.
Mm,
Sounds good, you know what I'm
right.
saying? But really being generator, operator, destroyer, how much do we really believe in that? If you
Mm.
make how much, yes? One second, brother.
No, you got it, brother. You got it. You got it.
My fault, bro.
No, you're good, man. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
Yeah, I was just saying, so by taking that positive vibration, I think that's the best thing we can do for ourselves, and just think about what we want, and face these things that we have to face.
You know, man, and I do think a lot of his programming, not only from the media, but honestly from the messaging we got from our parents and from their parents who honestly didn't know better. So we just picked it. We just picked up on it because there was no other like avenues. There was no other like folks to just give us information. We got it from one source. That source may have been right or wrong, but that's where we got it from. So we behind the eight ball. Let's say if that messaging is negative, you jacked up, man. You got a long way to go. And I think for our people, a lot of that messaging that they get at home, it's like steeped in trauma. It's just steeped in just talking about negative vibes. It's just, the lowest of the low, and, just reflecting on, the time when I taught in Newark. I mean, for some of those kids, it's almost like, there's a common phrase, oh, it doesn't matter what you do, you can sort of make it if you just, pick yourself up and just do whatever. And it's not as simple as that, man. There's just some kids, their experience is just so extreme. It literally just takes the hand of God to just like literally take them out of that situation from them to make it. It's so extreme. It's just so insane. It's not just a matter of just like lifting yourself up. You actually need someone to get that person out of there. You know what I mean? And
just kids.
Yeah, like kids don't have that. They don't have that person to do. They don't have that quote unquote savior or that lifeline. They just don't. So regardless of what what a book can do, it's just a lot of them. It just takes like a higher authority just to swoop down and just like take them out of the doldrums of hell in a lot of ways and just show them a different way, give them a different path. I guess that's where we come in. We deal with all types of kids. Yeah,
that's where I was going. I mean,
right.
It's up to us. You know what I'm saying? Like collectively, what I'm saying?
Right.
Not like we're going to come up with this grand organization that goes all around the world. Maybe we can. But at the same time, if everybody does a little something, we're all doing a little something towards the other stuff.
There we go.
We're doing a lot of something towards the other stuff.
Right.
Mass incarcerated and all that, making it easy for our enemy.
Right.
I mean, if we was to understand, one, that we got more power than we think. Two, if certain shit can't change, you know what I'm saying? You just let it take its time and work itself out. But you can change. You can change your mind. You can change your outlook on things. If a cat punch you in your face, it's gonna hurt one way or the other, right?
Right.
Now, a year later, you can think about the time you got punched in the face, and it can hurt you that day mentally if you let it. Or some people, they forgot about it after you hit them because you know what I mean? Oh, I should have did that time. I'll get you the next time.
No doubt.
So it's how you process. And I think strong cats like yourself and people in whatever race they're in, if they're really trying to do something, we got to have that internal battery, connect with each other and push each other. You know what I'm saying? When you're feeling low, go to your peoples, and we need to be there for each other because it's easy, like you said, to much is against us.
Right.
Look at everything. Oh man, it's a done deal. It's a wrap.
Right.
Say that, but if somebody had said that back in slavery, where would we be now?
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's a wrap. Fuck it. Just give up.
And I think to that point, just I don't know, this spell that just popped in my head. In terms of like influential artists, and I guess we'll talk about that the next podcast. I think about DMX because he came like knee deep just in terms of that shiny suit. It's about money, it's about women, and he just came in with like, "Get at me, dog!" Like it was cool, though. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just blocking. But one quote that he said, I guess he said, I guess it was slipping. To live is to suffer, but to survive is to find meaning in the suffering. And it's just, we're all going to make mistakes, right? But it's just like, how do you grow from it? A lot of times Black folks, we're not allowed to make mistakes. The mistake that we make, we end up in jail for like 20 or 30 years, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Because that's not
somebody else to make and get a smack on the hand.